Howdy doody everyone, it's me, a psychological manifestation of Countdown creator Wambu, projected from your own internal demons. Hello! It's time once again for some terrifying tomfoolery, but this time, I don't really care when it comes out, because in the year 2020, life is horror. This year I gave myself a bit of a challenge, and I don't just mean getting treatment for my mental health and releasing a video as a step forward to no longer tormenting myself for my misgivings as a content creator. Aw, shit, that got personal real fast. I swear I'll be funny for the rest of the video. Ugh, yuck. The challenge I'm actually referring to was beating a game that I had long avoided since around 2014, mostly for the presence of that word in the title. Nuh-uh, I don't do well with those. This year though, I buckled down and jumped headfirst into the fire. And by that, I mean a friend bought it for me and I wanted to prove to them that I wasn't chicken. It turns out, I loved it and I wanted to make a video on it. Spooky's Jump Scare Mansion is a cute, variously stylized horror game about making your way through 1,000 rooms of a derelict mansion, while escaping all the horror genre tropes that have been lovingly referenced in the game's major enemies. In the main storyline, there are 13 of what the game calls Specimens, and I'm gonna rank them all from least favorite to favorite. But before that, I gotta talk about, rules. I know, I hate this part too. First of all, yes, I'm talking about the main game Specimens specifically. I know the Endless mode has the unknown specimens, and the Karamari Hospital DLC has monsters, and the Dollhouse DLC came out recently, which means this game is relevant again. But come on, I want a reasonable workload here. Those other specimens can maybe get their own video eventually, but for now, fuck them. Second, I should clarify that while all these guys in-game are designated by their specimen numbers, they pretty much all have actual names, some of which are official, and some of which are more colloquial among fans. I'll be including those along with the specimen numbers for the sake of distincting them better. Final disclaimer, I spent the bulk of my decision-making here repeatedly asking myself stupid scattershot questions that eventually made up my criteria. Are they scary? Do I like their design? Do they have a cool concept or backstory? Do I appreciate the reference? How dangerous are they in gameplay? What happens when they kill you? Do they have a nice place for chill hangs where I can sit down and eat one Twizzler? Keeping these things in mind should help get a better understanding of my train of thought, while I work my way up to the best, starting with the least best. Spoilers, I'm gonna be pretty positive on all of them, but now I'm getting ahead of myself. Wait. No, I'm not. I've got nothing else to say. Start the fucking video, damn you! A pox! A pox on all your brain cells! Well, I promised positivity with all of them, and I intend to keep my word, because if we're looking at the main storyline, 13 out of 13 specimens are good. Not one that I would reasonably describe as a total dud. And while I could further sweeten my language as much as I want, one of these clods has to be subject to the bitter bottom of the list. And after much deliberation, I unfortunately decided that I would not partake in the Green Jolly Rancher. Look, I'd probably talk about this guy way later if I was including the other specimens. Trust me, in a game with a floating baby head in a box and goddamn Otto the Otter, Goop is far from the shittiest creature in the game. It just had to be this way. As the first enemy in the game, what it brings to the table is kinda minimal, but as the first enemy in the game, it's still pretty good. After getting through the first 60 floors mostly uncontested, you reach a room that seems like any other, but someone left a big old puddle of high-C ecto-cooler, and I guess they didn't have a mop or paper towels or a dog. They did leave a note though. Spouting, splashing, soaking, innards, ingesting, in choking. My language is fucking broken. Turn around and fuck me, it's a lub glub. I'm not even kidding, that's literally the reference. And it approaches slowly with a pose that says, "Sir, is this your wallet? Did you drop your wallet? Sir, please, sir, take your fucking wallet, goddamn!" I tease, but honestly, I think the Goopy Man works pretty well. The design is pretty scary, the choking sounds it makes are really menacing, and this is a solid game over screen, especially for a first monster. Plus, I can't help but feel weirdly sympathetic for the guy. The note seems to be written by the monster itself, and implies that it's in a constant state of choking. I'm never gonna let myself go for that one. It's immediately interesting characterization for a creature that, unfortunately, just didn't end up being that big an obstacle. That's why it finds itself at the bottom here. For as cool as that first impression was, the others on the list just gave me even more to digest while being notably more dangerous. Hell, Goop gets even easier once you get the axe. Ah, how the tables turn, you 100% artificial green apple flavoring son of a bitch! But seriously, get well soon. So speaking as another ghost, I have been known to spook every now and then. So I have a couple words of advice for our girl Spooky here, cause Lord knows I have so much experience building a 1,000 room mansion with a bunch of creatures designed to kill. To cut to the chase, it's kinda slow at the beginning. While it's not bad or anything, I think the game really gets more interesting, more experimental, and more scary around Specimens 4 or 5. Needless to say, the first leg of the game could definitely use some work. Anyway, here's Specimen 13. Just when I thought we were knocking it out of the park left and right, the final specimen we meet really split the difference between, hey, you know, this is kind of alright, and wow, I saw this shit coming from a billion gigaparsecs away. To its credit, I was struck right away when I first read the notes in the area, because it made the specimen sound genuinely imposing. Apparently, it's been killing whales by eating them from the inside. Fuck. Look, I wasn't super fond of Jabu Jabu's belly either, but that's just fucking excessive, bruh. Its locale was also super creepy. It's so dark to the point of feeling kinda claustrophobic. It seems like they've made a really neat environment here. I would love to see it someday. Instead, I wandered around in the dark for several minutes until I finally found the reference. In retrospect, Amnesia was super influential on horror in the 2010s, especially in the YouTube Let's Play circle, so its homage in this game feels perfectly in place. I was excited to see what they do, but I also got a pit in my stomach, cause damn oh damn, that's a scary game. Then I reached the second part of this area. Yeah, I don't even need to see the specimen, I just know what's gonna happen already. Does the name Cairn ring any bells? Does the name Water Monster ring any bells? Okay, yeah, there it is, there it is. The siren only chases you when you're in the water, and to avoid it, you have to go on one of the boxes. Again, you already know the drill. This is probably the one instance of the game where the reference it was going for felt just a little too on the nose. Kinda watered down, even. Oh my god, I really wrote watered down. I hate myself. Unlike in Amnesia, where it can be kinda tough to know where to go next, the siren's chase has such a convenient trail of boxes that it becomes way too easy to get your bearings and avoid this thing altogether. And the siren herself? Well, I don't want to be too harsh, because she does have a pretty cool design, but at the risk of sounding kinda condescending, I feel just a little bit over this trope. Like, you thought you were gonna smooch a pretty mermaid, but gotcha, her teeth are actually piano keys. I know, that's what sirens do, and admittedly it's not a bad concept for a creature inspired by the water monster, just didn't do much for me. Probably would have scared me much more if I was a whale. You know, I'm really glad I played this game in 2020, because I could have played this back in the 2014 era, when the game was called Spooky's House of Jump Scares. And while maybe I would have been more surprised by FNAF references like Auto Motherfucking Otter, it would have also meant that all the specimens would be 2D images instead of the 3D models we have now. Some people find the 2D images scarier. I'm not even gonna pretend I understand why. They make me feel like I'm being chased by concept art. Oh, you might think you're safe now, but just wait. Soon the rest of my body will align with the Z-axis and then you'll be fucked. I bring this up now not because I'm trying to stoke any fires, but because whatever end of the argument you're on, this specimen's upgrade to 3D was everything it needed. So don't let the numbering mess you guys up. This is Specimen 3, but it's referred to as Subject 5 in the notes around the area. Got it? Specimen 3, Subject 5, one and the same. Not that I think any of you are dumb, but I fucked it up several times on my first playthrough and I'm embarrassed, and please tell me I'm not the only one. Oh god. Whatever they were going for with the older versions of Specimen 3, it didn't really work at all. I don't know who was scared by this slow, small facsimile of a spider, but I'm really glad it's evolved into a big ol' centipede boy now. In spite of technically being the second monster you encounter in the game, I think it's a very notable step up from Goop. While there are quite a lot of specimens that simply chase you, Specimen 3 is the first one that has a fairly reasonable chance of killing you, since it's actually pretty fast now and can ambush you from little holes it makes in the ceiling. It's also the first specimen to introduce new special specimen locales. Get a load of these sexy test tubes. Ah, fuck, one of them broke. Someone should get Spooky over here to do do nothing about it. Guess we know why there's no more people around. While I can very much appreciate what Specimen 3 brings contextually, I have to admit that this is one of the weaker locales on account of being super generic. And I mean that literally. The employees are called generic lab assistants. They're trying to be self-aware and funny about it, but there's truth in jest, that's all I'm saying. That's not to dunk on Specimen 3 itself, because if I'm being real, I fucking adore this thing. The design, the way it slinks out of the holes, the way it just goes fuck this shit, I'm out when you hit it with the axe, and this game over sequence is so much more awesome than it has any right to be. You're telling me there were 3 of these guys? Oh wait, I guess that kinda makes sense. In all honesty, I developed a pretty big affection for Specimen 3 during the course of the game, which is effective in probably the exact opposite way of how it was intended. I would get happy when it showed up on the rechase cycle. It became my bro. I unironically think it's adorable, and that's not what a scary game is supposed to do. I like to rank horror lists on a balance between fear and love, how much I'm invested into the concept behind something scary, and how well it executes that concept. Specimen 3 goes way too far into the love section, so fine, maybe I'm not scared by it, but this thing still has my heart, and that's gotta count for something. If I ever do top 10 video game insects, I'll know who to call. Well, in an unfortunate turn of events, apparently there's an opposite end to that spectrum I described earlier. What? You're telling me you could be afraid of something without also loving it? Well, that sounds like Wambu might be having a normal person's experience with fear. Well, first of all, how dare you insinuate such slander? Second of all, you right. At the very least, I can say that we've passed the threshold of specimens that, in one way, or the best way, generally underwhelmed. Specimen 4, aka Ringu, is such a step up in both scariness and atmosphere that it's kinda shocking. The first time you get to her area, it's like, I'm sorry, did I open the door to a different fucking game? Suddenly, you're in a totally empty Japanese school. It's dark as fuck again, but this time you have a flashlight, which means 2 things. 1, sayonara peripheral vision, I'm sorry I took you for granted. 2, I can't read the fucking notes. But for real, there's something unsettling about being in an empty school at night. Maybe it's just my personal Outlast 2 flashbacks, or maybe it's the constant feeling of, shit, I'm really not supposed to be here. It's simple but effective, and it even has some surprises that I genuinely missed the first time I played it. So the second time when I was really trying to take in the environment more, all of a sudden, oh god. Is that a fucking Madoka Magica reference? Okay, I'm sorry. After a while, you finally encounter Ringu herself, and once again, she's just immediately scarier than any of the other specimens you've encountered so far. The black fog, the way she phases through walls, and that chilling earworm of a chase theme. There's also this cool bit of animation with her where she opens her jaw more the closer she gets to you, which is also fitting given that her method of killing is fucking voice consumption. She eats you. And that actually brings me to why Ringu didn't place all that high. I think she's quite effective in execution, but she kind of bores me in concept. She's a reference to the ring. That's like all there is to know about her. Which is why even when she got evolved forms in the game's endless mode, my fear of her is still kinda waned. Also, this game over sequence is one of the weaker ones in my opinion. It's kinda fucked up, but also sorta plain, and it doesn't even have the cool cryptic text that most of the other ones have. When you die to Specimen 3, it says, "Once in a land of dreams, I thought I could be free. But now, the hunger never sleeps." Specimen 4 is basically the opposite. I'm full and now I got a food baby. Once I got over the initial shock of what Ringu had to offer, the intrigue didn't quite last. Which isn't entirely a knock against the game, really. Sometimes you just need a good, straightforward scare, and that's just what Ringu happened to be for me. So no hate, my ass got 8. For a while it was great, hopefully you can relate, and now we move on to number 9! Come on, man, I had a good thing going there. It was a good flow, and now it's fucked up. 9! Motherfucking 9. God damn it. Honestly, who even made that number? I can't believe this shit. Oh, and speaking of food babies. Oh, hey guys, check it out. This place has its own Mickey D's. I'd like to order. Stop, don't do that. Do you think I'm gonna order A, a sofa, B, an expensive haircut, or C, a demon? An actual fucking demon. Ah, I'd like 1 sofa, please. Ah, never mind. Service here fucking sucks. If any of you make a joke about the numbering here, I'm gonna fucking delete your comment. Of all the specimens in the game, the food demon was easily the hardest one to nail down a definitive ranking for. When I first entered its place, I was partially of the mind that I was going to encounter a joke specimen. It's a kinda corny, colorful, fast food place with "Taste the beef!" posters all around it, and bathrooms that aren't too messy. Oh, sick, bro. The toilet water in this place is ketchup. And it even has a fun tunnel. A fun tunnel! Don't you guys want to explore the fun tunnel? This isn't very fun, you guys. Yeah, to my surprise, they actually play it straight, and it sorta works, provided you read the notes spread throughout the place. Specimen 11's part has one of the most interesting one-off side stories in the entire game. It's from the perspective of a former fast food employee who's hired here right as the place suspiciously starts to boom in business. While he's there, the same customers show up over and over again to order excessive amounts of food, he starts hallucinating after eating a burger, and the managers are absolutely careless and horrible to their own employees. So I guess one thing here is normal. The notes are cool though, cause while they're effective as a little self-contained story, they subtly come to a head with the food demon itself, partly thanks to the hallucinations it causes, most predominantly testing environmental awareness by hiding the doors. But also its game over sequence sees the player teleport to a hallway made of red meat, and then confront the food demon himself before being barraged with oddly religious undertones. That binary code literally translates to "believe in God, but question the teachings of man." Fellas, is it satanic to fucking eat? But yeah, ultimately the food demon worked for me a lot more than I thought it would at first. The only thing I find to be kinda weak is the design of the food demon itself. It doesn't look bad, mind you. In fact, it actually looks kinda cool, but it's also a little too plain for me to be all that scared of. If there's one thing I would never take away from it though, it's easily the best food-themed specimen in the game, which admittedly isn't saying much when your only other competition is goddamn Auto Eats the Pizza Otter. Fucking bitch ass. I'm gonna need you guys to bear with me because I'm gonna do a bit of a thing here. Remember 2017? There was this quaint little viral indie horror game that was still in its early stages, and one particular moment from it I distinctly remember to this day. Well, if this isn't the single stupidest way a game has ever tried to spook me. I thought back then. 3 years later, I get it now. You know what? Maybe this specimen was the hardest one to place, because just about any metric I might judge the other specimens on won't apply to cardboard cutouts at all. Seriously, what am I gonna talk about? Its locale? It doesn't have one. It just pops up at random anywhere that isn't a special specimen location. Its game over sequence? Alright, go on. If you're gonna do it, then do it! Kill me, damn you! It's cardboard. It can't. Its design? It's cute. It's super cute. Look at the adorable. Only on rare occasions does it decide to throw anything scary at your face. A lot of times it's kinda just used for utility purposes like holding notes, and I love it. It's another specimen where it dips really far into the love column and not at all into the scary one, but this time it's definitely deliberate. See, Specimen 1 basically is the jump scare part of Spooky's jump scare mansion, but jump scares are kinda cheap and stupid, and the game very much knows it. Pretty much any other specimen in the game is scarier, if you don't count Otto the Otter. And yet, typically when people play this game, the creature that gets them to jump the most often is Specimen 1. Not because it's scarier, but because if things get really quiet, and then all of a sudden there's a thing with a noise, you're probably gonna react. It's as cheap gets. Cheap like cardboard. And you know what? It's a pretty good bit. I love seeing people start off being mildly amused, and then steadily grow to get genuinely annoyed at how disruptive it can be during another specimen chase, only to eventually simmer down into a sort of begrudging endearment for the thing. I mean, it's basically using a comedic jump scare to draw attention to the underlying manipulations that make people react to jump scares. Oh, you got me again, you little bastard. Good games, good games. Fuck you. Friends, foes, the halfway point approaches us with great imminence. Thusly, the next sentence is interrupted by knocking sounds. Oh wait, I wasn't supposed to read that line. There's some doors in this house. I'll get it.
You shouldn't have done that, Wambu.
I think I'm gonna let this one cook a little longer. You shouldn't have done that, Wambu! Never mind, I think I burnt it.
Like I Guess you are my little PogChamp. Come here.
That bitch stays closed now. I'm not entirely sure how much I really need to discuss the merits of Specimen 6, aka Ben the Merchant. If anything, I should be frantically explaining why he's not even in the top 5. I never thought I'd call a number 7 spot the big one, but this is the big one. Somehow, in some way, Ben the Merchant is the most notorious specimen in the game. It's to the point where even people who haven't touched Spooky's Jump Scare Mansion have vague knowledge of Ben. Is it cause he's based on, you know, those horror stories that get posted on the internet? A scary spaghetti. I mean, it has to be, right? Cause he's pretty unassuming looking otherwise. He's just some guy with a happy mask salesman face. Stop right there. You hear that? That's ignorance talking. And turning a blind eye to this guy? Well, that's exactly how he gets ya. I get it now. Believe me, I get it. Specimen 6 is the first one to really throw a wrench into the works. You can't just run from him like you can with Specimens 2 through 5. No, no, no. Cause this guy isn't just a man, he's a peanut. But like the scary peanut from SCP. Keep your eyes on this bitch or he'll poke him out. And that's not even a joke. It's like one of the most gruesome game over sequences in the game. And because he's such a departure from all the other specimens that came before him, he's usually the first one that people die to. And if your first experience with dying in the game is... then yeah, I can maybe see why this guy would leave an impression. Another thing I think he deserves credit for is his backstory, cause wow, he actually has one of those things. Apparently he sold puppets and other trinkets to young kids, which I guess flexed super hard on all the other business owners in town, so they threw all his puppets in a river, causing Ben to jump in and never resurface. Ben now takes the form of a puppet himself, and kidnaps children, potentially turning them into puppets too. So in case it wasn't obvious, Ben marks the point in the list where the specimens get really good, and the only reason he's not standing with the other top picks is cause I think they maybe played the whole hand a little too quickly. Once I understood that he was doing the SCP thing, I didn't find him all that difficult to handle. Ow. Apart from that admittedly chilling chase theme. But let's be real, how was he ever gonna fool me, a guy who gets distracted by absolutely everything? Yo dog, heard you drowned, never lucky bro, sucks to suck. Oh my god, is that a completely unremarkable door? Yeah, this feels like karma. In case anyone was thinking of playing the game themselves, this is the part where I'd very much recommend stopping the video and just experiencing the game itself on your own, because we're getting into full spoiler territory now, and if you have played the game before, you probably know what's coming next. So the only thing I gotta say now is... nice. Yeah, that's right, I'll joke about the numbering this time. The sex number is funny. Fun fact, when I was playing through the game, I had a feeling that one of the specimens was going to be the final boss. I had 3 suspects, my prime of which was Specimen 1. Yeah, I thought it was gonna be some subversion of expectation trueform shit. It made a lot of sense in my head, okay? I was side-eyeing all these cartoon skeletons and pumpkins like, yeah bitch, I'm on to you. And then my second suspect turned out to be the actual final boss. I was kinda conflicted on the Taker for a while. Unlike the other specimens in the game, barring Specimen 1, he doesn't really have a set encounter. Instead, triggering him is a lot more circumstantial. He just kind of shows up if you're in a room for too long. There is at least one room layout where it seems like an encounter with him was intended, where you enter a long hallway that goes on forever until the Taker shows up, does his taking thing, and fucking spams chat like a motherfucker. I've seen people go through the whole game and never get his room though, so it's very possible to have never even seen the Taker by the time he reveals himself as the final boss. And speaking of the boss fight, I don't know, it's pretty good. It's not difficult, mind you. His attacks are easy to avoid and his gameplay loop is super predictable, but for the last and only boss fight in the game, it's stylistically really cool. His attacks all look awesome, and the visual effects he puts on the screen really make everything feel more frantic. I actually don't have a lot to say about the fight. I basically just brought it up to emphasize that the fight is not the reason the Taker ranked so high. It's not about his design, or his fight, or his role in the game, or lol funny sex number. Rather, it's because of the little details I noticed on repeat playthroughs. More specifically, why is that his room number? That wasn't a particularly remarkable room in the main game, so what's the relevance of 731. Oh my god. They're not seriously talking about that, are they? They are. They 100% are. What the fuck? What has this game been about? This moment recontextualized everything, because it turns out this cute little love letter to the horror genre has low-key been about the fallout of the most horrible human experiment in history, which, looking back on things, kinda makes sense. Specimens 2, 4, 6, 10, and 13 are all implied to have been human at some point. Are all of them related to World War II as well? Honestly, I don't know. My mind could have just exploded over absolutely nothing. But one thing at least is absolutely unambiguously true. The Taker is a flayed human from Unit 731 that has been trying to piece its body back together as it stalks you in secrecy throughout the entire game. That realization hit me real deep. Hit me like my finger over the enter key as I spam take the dead to my friends moments before they block me. Such a high concept creature was hidden right under my nose in the form of a specimen that I originally ranked right under Ringu. And while it's maybe a problem that I didn't realize I loved this concept so much till after my second playthrough, the important thing here is that I'm now smart enough to draw wild speculations about a fringe horror game from 2014, a skill that I'm sure will serve me never again. But hey, it was fun for just this once. For as many specimens as we've already covered, I feel like we haven't quite ticked all the horror gameplay boxes. When you see something scary in a game, what do? Well, you run, and there's a shit ton of running in this game, but I feel like there's normally a second part to that. You run and die horribly?
I am dead.
No, that's the bad way to do it. You run and what? I think it starts with an H? You run and hit it with your axe. No, that's not it. But I'm getting closer. I can feel it. I'm sorry, I need to what? Hide? Well, this game was made by a weeb with a Japanese pseudonym. It's probably one of those things that just got lost in translation.
Fuck.
Can I just say, it feels so weird to get this far into a horror game and only just get your first hiding prompt. My brain genuinely had to take a moment to be like, wait, this is different actually. What's the occasion? Well, take a listen. Yeah, it's the Scissor Man. We getting Clock Tower up in this. Similar to those games, Specimen 12's segment has you regularly hiding from a guy with an oversized blade, as you find more ways to unlock the mansion. And not like Spooky's mansion, but well, imagine a Boston cream donut, and the outer dough is a mansion, and the creamy filling is a totally different mansion. It's basically that. I'm actually gonna start off with the negatives because it should be pretty quick and easy to cover. This old man with the sickle, I don't like him. I don't like his design, and I'm not scared of him. There's a lot of reasons why I feel like I should be, but a lot of the time I just can't take him seriously.
Are you in here? I'm so lonely. Where are you? I can smell you. I'm so lonely.
Now begs the question, if I don't actually like Specimen 12, then why did I rank this guy in the top 5? I didn't. No, I didn't do that either. What I mean is, that old guy isn't Specimen 12. That old guy is actually a possessed host for the real Specimen 12, the mansion itself. Yeah, that creamy filling in our Boston cream mansion donut is the actual Specimen 12. What we get is the most strongly characterized place in the whole game. It doesn't look that different from the normal mansion. In fact, it kinda looks a bit shittier, but even that's by design. Specimen 12 is a big ol' fake ass, a prissy prick who's trying to impress the real mansion by pretending to also be a mansion. The brick walls and wood are confirmed to be painted over. In fact, everything in the mansion looks ever so slightly artificial. I bet those aren't even real Pepsi bottles. Thankfully, there is one room where there's not a doubt in my mind that Specimen 12 is being its real self. The cellar. Well, if this ain't just the worst fucking thing ever. Excuse me, can one of you dead, decayed skeletons point me to the way out of this goddamn nightmare? That's the other thing that really works about Specimen 12 12, actually. I'm one of those people that tries to take in the full experience, you know, like a good little gamer. But if you want to, you can actually just brute force your way through almost everything. Not here, though. The very nature of exploring the mansion and hiding when the need arises means you have to engage somehow with the specimen directly. If the walls could talk, they'd tell you to stop being such a fucking scrub. This sort of change to the usual format of gameplay makes the paranormal structure one of the most satisfying late-game specimens to surmount. In fact, it probably would have been a better Specimen 13 than the actual Specimen 13. I really can't complain, though. I guess Specimen 12 isn't killing any whales. Instead, it just ruined donuts for me. You won't take me as a host, motherfucker! My mind is too powerful now!
Just like me. Empty inside.
If I'm being honest, I was a little nervous going into this list. The holiday of horror for me normally opens the door for broader scary subjects. This time, I laser focused on this one little indie game that's only recently come back into relevance, but I have a couple reasons for doing this. One, I like this game a lot and I think it deserves an even bigger audience. Two, this game is pretty derivative, and in this context, that's honestly a great thing. Three, I just want to talk about different shit. I really like doing horror lists, but I'd be lying if I said there haven't been more than a few franchises I've kind of defaulted to. And for once, I personally think it'd be fun to not have to talk about Resident Evil, or Hollow Knight, or fucking Undertale somehow, because that keeps showing up, or Killer 7, or Half-Life 2, or Silent Hill 2, oh wait. That's right, even when I'm talking about a totally different game, Silent Hill 2 still gets on the list. I will never escape this game, and neither will any of you. Maybe I'm biased right now because one of these things finally referenced some of my favorite horror media ever. I would also argue, however, that these feelings can go either way. Have you ever had something you loved get reappropriated poorly? 'Cause I certainly have. What I'm saying here is there was never going to be a middle ground with Specimen 5 for me. It was either going to be all love or me screaming angrily for 2 minutes while I pounded into the dirt. I thankfully ended up in the camp where I didn't do that. While Specimen 4 was the first one to really properly scare me, Specimen 5, or Bad, as she's called in the game's files, was the moment where I realized this game was going to do awesome things. Plus the name Bab is adorable. Bab. Everything about Bab and her section of the game is so stylistically unlike anything else the game has to offer, and that's because better than ever, the game was able to wear the best of its inspirations without sacrificing the identity, creating an eerie, organic, and industrial rundown mental ward with the sort of surreal, spacey, yet unmistakably video gamey visual flares that are super characteristic of Spookies. Same thing can be said of Bab herself. On a surface level, it seems like she's splitting the difference between Silent Hill 2's mannequins and bubble-headed nurses while giving them Pyramid Head's weapon. But she's also got this heavily shaded texture that's kind of fleshy, but also sort of crunchy and polygonal. What really got me about her, though, is how she fucks with all the environmental textures as she chases you, focusing a lot more on disorienting the player and less on going full aggro. Because of this, she's easily the most uncanny specimen to see coming towards you. Effective on subjects with mental issues and weak wills. Oh no, it's me! There's this air of mystery surrounding her as well. Her method of killing is listed as unknown, and this game over screen, which I love by the way, doesn't make it super clear what's even happening to us. Plus there's the always underlying question of, well, you know the one. Hey, what are you doing? Ever heard of personal space, bitch? What's your fucking deal? That one. We know she was found in a church, and it seems like she had a cult following her. That would make sense, and it would admittedly be very Silent Hill of her. But then there's also these weird parental themes happening. Her cult followers seem to refer to her as Mother, and it's also implied through one of the notes that she got angry after said cult burned a little girl in a ritual sacrifice. The most striking example of this, however, is the most cursed room in the entire game. Yeah, I think we've all seen enough here. Unlike with Taker, I don't really know if there's clear enough indicators to extrapolate any larger meaning, and honestly, I'm not sure I want to anymore. So I can just take this specimen for what it gives me on the surface, an awesome thing that I can point to while glowering at all the other horror references and go, this is how it's done! Lovingly faithful while being scary in its own way, and such a good promise for everything that would come after it. Plus she's named Bab.
So, you made it this far. That's great.
Dear Lord. It's the Dear Lord. Thank you, thank you. You've been a terrific audience. I'll be here all week. God, if there was one specimen in this game that was such a head-destroyingly wasted opportunity from a design standpoint, it was definitely Specimen 8. I don't get it, man. I just don't get it. Give the player an axe. Okay, that's a good start. Surround them with minor enemies that'll attack them. Okay, cool. I see where this is going.
No, don't use the axe too much or you'll get the bad ending.
What?
Also, the specimen chase is just Ringu again, but this guy is slower.
For what reason would you do something like this?
Well, Wambu, you seem to be angry about this guy, but he's also in your top 3.
I know, right? What is anything? I guess if you happen to have a lot of misgivings from a gameplay standpoint, just be fucking fantastic in every other regard, Forehead. It's just that easy. I could complain as much as I want, but I'd be remiss to not mention how generally cool the Dear Lord's whole part of the game is. Oh my god, this must be that outside I keep hearing so much about. Oh, and they even got wildlife in here? Fucking A. How do you think they keep them fed? They eat people. It's kind of a surreal experience being in an outdoorsy location and having to worry about something other than the specimen itself. But speaking of the specimen itself, taking inspiration from creatures of Native American folklore, in particular the Wendigo, the Dear Lord has probably the coolest and most imposing design of any specimen. This tall, ghostly forest deity with sharp teeth and beaming eyes. It even opens up its cloak as it draws closer to you to reveal its skeletal body and the screaming faces of those it's already assimilated. And even before you could fully process any of that, it straight up talks to you.
Your submission is inevitable. Why do you run, child?
Why do I run? Gee, I fucking wonder.
I'm going to feed you to my children, little one. Wait, where are you going? Did you not want to be made into deer food? I don't get it. You know, getting eaten by deer really isn't even that bad. It's honestly more fun than it sounds. No, wait, please stop running.
And if he does happen to kill you, which he probably won't, but if he does, then we're met with quite possibly the best game over sequence in the game. Like with the food demon, we're given a brief moment of gameplay before meeting face to face with the specimen itself, but the atmosphere here is way more intense. It's just a straight forest trail with a blood-red sky before succumbing to the Dear Lord's assimilation. No, it doesn't have the same shock value as Ben the Merchant stabbing your eyeball. But it's the kind of ambient horror that I personally appreciate so much more. Dear Lord really does stand top of the class in so many regards. Best design, best game over sequence, great locale, great build-up, great chase theme. Really the only thing that kept it from steamrolling to number 1 were the lame gameplay elements I mentioned earlier. Personally, if I were designing this, I would have the violent deer show up during the chase while removing the penalty for killing them. Even if you don't like that idea, I think it would have given Dear Lord something distinct for its rechase. I did say I was a Silent Hill 2 fan, so for the most part, I can forgive not so amazing gameplay. It just means Dear Lord has to settle for being one of the best instead of being easily the best. Enjoy top 3, sucker, whose submission is inevitable now. Fair enough. We've gone on a long journey together, but here we are finally, at the scariest number to grace any worst to best ranking, number 2. Maybe to those unaware of this game, a bit of suspense will still linger, but for those keeping track, any speculation will come to a head at this very moment. The second best specimen in the game is... Wait, who is it? I didn't even write a proper opening to this one. I gotta check again. Number 2 is Shitty Eel Bitch. What the fuck am I even looking at? This can't seriously be my number 2. This thing is goddamn pathetic. Maybe I would like it if it fucking died. Oh, well thank you for that. Just one thing though. Fucking excuse me? Yo, it's The Thing. No, I mean The Thing. It's literally called The Thing. Okay, thank you. The whole development story of Specimen 10 is pretty unique compared to all the others. That weird eel you saw a second ago was the original Specimen 10, and I guess somewhere along the line it was decided that this creature would be totally reconceptualized. Rather than just a simple replacement though, they decided to go whole hog and have the new Specimen 10 fucking kill the old one. It's such an out of nowhere entrance, yet it perfectly introduces one of the most weird, subversive, and ever-changing specimens in the game. 4 different forms this guy takes in the time you see him. The old and new Specimen 10 are 2. Another happens if you get too close as it tries to bite you with its gaping chest mouth. The final form is the real kicker, however, and it happens when you go too far. That's right, it becomes tiny. Can I get like a tiny audio stinger? Thank you. For real though, the scary thing about the leech form is that it's just faster than you. You can't outrun it. Every other specimen apart from one goes,
Come out.
The parasite, on the other hand, says, let me stop you right there. Walk with me, please. Okay. I personally can't help but love the way it changes the relationship between player and enemy. Most of the other specimens I could just be like, nope, not dealing with you. I like you. Not you, Mr. Subject 5, you can stick around. By comparison, it's really interesting to have this one monster that I just have to wait for. It's a very different feeling from a normal chase. I appreciate it a lot. And it's all the more surreal with its discordant mess of a chase theme playing in the back. And if that's not enough, Specimen 10 also visually fucks with the player a ton. It's pretty much the only specimen that consistently takes me by surprise when it shows up on the rechase cycle. I'll just be walking along and suddenly, oh god, I guess it's time for our morning stroll again. Is there anything I don't like about Specimen 10? Not really. I mean, I guess its game over screen could be better, but I actually love what they do with the binary this time. The actually readable text is all about sacrificing your will and feeding into nothing but animalistic instincts. The binary code, however, says the exact opposite. You are more than just an animal. Use the soul you've been given and be responsible for your actions. It's like the last gasp of your humanity trying to fight off the infection before inevitably succumbing. It's really cool. Okay, well what about the locale? Well, I did find it kinda unremarkable at first, since a similar idea was done earlier in the game with Specimen 3. In fact, this is literally supposed to be the older version of that lab. Then I read a note that implied the specimen was hiding in the vents. Then we had to go into the vents. So yeah, in spite of my first impressions, the locale was pretty effective. And that's honestly how I'd best explain Specimen 10 in general. It was the creature of many surprises. When I thought it was gonna zig, it zagged. When I thought it was over, it wasn't. When I thought it was gonna make a left, it opened its chest and sapped my very essence from my body. And of course, when I thought it was gonna be number 1 on my list for the longest time, well god damn it, you even got that one over on me.
Number 1.
Lucky number ass son of a bitch. Well, hello there. Are you lost, little ones? Yeah, me too. Believe me when I say that I'm surprising myself with this. No joke, Specimen 7 was initially in my bottom 3. I think I just didn't really get it at first. I got so used to the cycle of recognizing all the referential shit. Oh, it's The Ring. Oh, it's Silent Hill 2. Oh, it's Legend of Zelda. And then you get to 7 and it's just like... Please insert your own confused onomatopoeia. Needless to say, no other specimen grew on me so much so quickly. Specimen 7 section is so bizarrely existential and different from everything else that it barely even registers as an enemy encounter. It just feels like its own weird, isolated moment. Specifically, it's a moment where you meet a cat that takes you through increasingly surreal and occasionally cosmic environments. This cat is the only living creature in the main game that doesn't ever attack you. Instead, and there's really no better way to describe it, it espouses Jungian psychology at you.
The mask you wear serves its purpose well, but be careful not to lose yourself in it.
It's the sort of thing that's easy to dismiss as being just way too pretentious. You can't assault my wrinkly brain with your large words, feline fiend. Little by little, though, the cynicism just sort of crumbled away. It really started to make sense, all the things the cat was saying about knowing my projections and being ready to see what I'd rather not be, especially once the chase itself happened. Now, obviously, the Wall of Flesh seems to be inspired by something like Gygus from Earthbound, but aside from that, what has the point of all this been? Therapy. The game just stopped doing its normal thing to give you a therapy session. Specimen 7 is described in-game as a form that can change from person to person, and is effective on those with psychological issues. It's effectively a metaphor for trauma and potentially mental illness. See? Those jokes I made about my mental health earlier in the video weren't a throwaway after all. Well, I have a tiny brain, I swear. Ow! The chase takes place in a dark red hallway. The walls flash with all sorts of weird images as the Wall of Flesh steadily closes in on you. What you've got to do is focus up and not get distracted by any of the imagery on the walls. It sounds easy, and it is. I can get through this no problem, and my eyes wander to the point where they're not even on my face half the time, but it's not the difficulty I love. It's the discord in the mindscape concept. The build-up to the chase encourages you to succeed for yourself and make it through, while the specimen itself leans on you making the conscious choice to dwell on it and let it take you. And in 2020 especially, the message of triumph over one's traumas and inner demons felt all the more poignant. The only disappointment I have with Specimen 7 is that it doesn't have a game over sequence. Other than that, everything here is utterly fascinating and I adore it. For as derivative as this game is in a lot of ways, this really felt like the one moment where it did its own thing and embraced its own identity to really exciting results. Akuma Kira, you've made something truly special. Thank you for giving me this kawaii neko-chan to acknowledge my feelings. Everyone else, stay safe. We're all in this together. Be the Jungian cat you want to see in the world. Hey y'all, before the video ends proper, I just want to give a big shout out to two friends of mine that were a big help in making this list. The first is Rom M. He actually created his own chase themes for each specimen, and he let me use them throughout this video. Thanks so much for that, Rom. You're such a talented guy, and the songs came out amazing. I'll be linking his SoundCloud and Bandcamp in the description below. The other friend I wanted to thank is Wave Runner. He edited a few of the entries in this video, and generally, he's been such a godsend for me over these last few countdowns I've made. He actually does weekly streams on the Fanfickle channel, which just recently started streaming on Twitch. Archives of the streams are still being uploaded on Streamfickle Entertainment, though. Right now, Wave is playing through Mario Sunshine, and he's gonna do Galaxy 2 after. Sometimes I actually join him, but not all the time. So if you guys do check him out, give him some love. He works super hard, and don't pester him in any way if I'm not streaming with him. So to wrap this up, I'm gonna play a funny clip from one of his streams, and then the end card is gonna happen. Take care, everybody.
It's just... Ooh. Okay.
Oh.
And then Sunshine to...
I thought you like died for a second.
I am the Sunshine Master. Very nice.
Beautiful. There you go. Yeah, wave poggers.
Hell yeah.
Pog Runner.